love us no matter what. And who else loves us no matter what? God loves us no matter what. They don't care if we've had a bad day. They don't care if we want to sleep in bed all day long. They don't care if we come home late. They don't care if we wake them up early. They are just happy to be part of our lives and walk that journey with us.
Hello, and welcome to More Than Sunday, a weekly podcast where we take a deeper dive into the stories, themes, and questions of our faith. My name is Eric Chakowski. I'm one of the worship directors here at First United Methodist Church, Richardson. And with me every week is one of our associate pastors, Josh Fitzpatrick.
Hey, Eric, it's good to see you. Hey, I've got a question right off the bat.
Okay.
Are you guys pet people?
We are pet people. We have two dogs.
Two dogs. And their names?
Sully and Cody.
What kind of dogs are they?
One is a lab Catahoula mix. Catahoula is like a Louisiana sheepdog. He looks pretty labby. And then we've got a St. Bernard Australian Heeler mix, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you have two kids as well. Have these dogs been in the picture longer than the kids?
They have. Yeah, our oldest kid is 4. Both of our dogs are about 7.
Ah, gotcha. So in our marriage, we also have had two pets. But,
okay.
The first one was a fish, Japanese betta fish, named Uno.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was our first pet. And the place we lived right when we got married didn't allow dogs, so we went with the fish.
That's a good name for a pet.
Yeah,
I like that.
Uno. And then our second pet is Bogey, which has nothing to do with the number 2, but he was our second pet, and he's a great dog. He's 11 years old now.
Wow. What kind of dog?
A Maltese.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so he loves us, doesn't love other people, but he is part of the family, and he's a buddy of ours.
Absolutely. Well, our pets are parts of our families, and we are so excited to talk about pets today. We are animal lovers here at the church, and wanted to make you actually aware of a few events that are going on this week. October the 4th is World Animal Day, and actually this Sunday, October the 6th, at the church from 1 to 3, we're going to have a blessing of the animals. So you'll have an opportunity to come and bring your pets, and we'll have pastors there that will bless those animals because we know that they're an important part of your life and an important part of your families. And so, again, from 1 to 3, there's a statue of Jesus out in our parking lot. That's probably the easiest landmark for folks to know where to go. And again, we would love to have you come with your pets and participate in that with us.
We're really excited about today's episode. It's a little different than usual in that it's made up of 2 different parts. But to begin with, we have the honor of interviewing a church member and a local veterinarian, Dr. Katherine Mathes. Today on the show, we have the privilege of being joined by a veterinarian, Dr. Katherine Mathes, who's a member of our church here, better known in our circles as Kit, or by her confirmation students as Miss Kit. We're also joined by her dog, Melville. If you hear some panting in the background, we have a dog present today.
It's not me.
Yeah, it's not Eric. But, Dr. Mathes, it is a pleasure to have you today. Thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thank you for asking me.
So when we start, we like to kind of set the context for those who are listening. Could you tell us a little bit about your journey of what it takes to become a vet and what that looked like for you?
So according to my mother, when I was in 4th grade, I came home and said, I want to be a veterinarian. And my initial reason was the classic, I love animals. And I realized over time it took a lot more than just a love of animals to be a veterinarian. I found out I not only love helping animals, but by helping animals, I'm also helping their people, their owners, their moms and dads. And so that's really what drew me more and more to being a veterinarian.
I love what you say about not only are you helping the animals, but you're helping their owners, you're helping their moms and dads, if you will. There's just something special about animals. I think they're a gift from God. What is it that's so special about them? I
think the biggest part of it is they love us no matter what. And who else loves us no matter what? God loves us no matter what.
That's right.
And they don't care if we've had a bad day. They don't care if we want to sleep in bed all day long. They don't care if we come home late. They don't care if we wake them up early. They're just happy to be part of our lives and walk that journey with us.
I truly believe it's one of the most beautiful images of that unconditional love that you speak of. And I've seen and experienced some great reminders of that with my own 2 dogs. And that really is such a beautiful picture. So, Kit, we mentioned that you're a member of this church. You're a person of faith. How does your faith inform your work as a vet?
I know I've had a lot of training to be a veterinarian. Went through 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of vet school. I've had 25 plus years of experience being a veterinarian, but there are times when I treat my patients and they get better, and I don't always know why they get better. I've done my best. Sometimes they don't get better, and I don't know why. There's part of it that's not part of my control. I'm not the one in control of those things. So that influences my faith, because I've gone to bed many nights praying that my patient will get better and I'll see them better the next day. My faith also helps me walk that journey of life with my patients and their parents, because I see them when they come in as brand new puppies and kittens, and I've walked that journey with them until it's the end of their life sometimes. And sometimes that's an easy road, and sometimes it's a really tough road. And I think my faith has helped guide me with some of those recommendations that I make along the way.
Now, I can't imagine being in your shoes at the end of a pet's life. Sometimes there are intentional decisions that have to be made at the end of a life, and sometimes they come in tragic accidents. What is it like to walk on that journey with a pet's parents?
And I think that's probably the time when I'm closest in my faith, is at the end of a life, when I'm counseling somebody on making that really tough decision.
Right.
Looking at their pet's quality of life, how many good things are they still enjoying out of the day, or how much are they not enjoying out of the day? And then when we make that decision, that final moment to let them go, as much as we would love for them to just quietly pass away on their own in their sleep, that's not what usually happens. It's usually that we're having to make that decision. And I wrestle with that sometimes, even with my faith. I'm making the decision to take something's life. Is that right or not? I'm very grateful that I'm in a position where when I'm letting something go, it's at the end of their life. It's truly at the end of their life. There's nothing more I can do. There's nothing more that their owners can do for them. They're suffering, and I'm not letting them suffer anymore.
In the midst of that, even taking away suffering, it's obviously a really difficult time in most cases for the parents of the pets. I know several people who have gone through that say, I just can't go through that again. I'm not interested in being a pet owner again because it was so painful to lose them. What would you say to someone who has gone through a loss like that and isn't willing to risk being a pet parent again?
Yeah, I've had clients that they've lost one pet and they've said, I'll never have this happen again. I never want to experience this again. And it takes time. Grief takes time. Healing takes time. Walking through those steps of grief. And it's common that somewhere down the road, they come back in and they've got a new member of their family. They've got a new bundle of joy, so to speak. It doesn't replace the one that they lost, but it's great for them to have that unconditional love back in their life.
Now, I know tragedy is a part of the job, but I would imagine there are several moments of joy in your job as well. What part of your job as a veterinarian brings you joy?
Those brand new puppy or kitten visits, when people are just fresh with excitement that they have a new life in their home, in their family, and teaching them how to care for that new part of their family is probably the best part of my job.
And so what advice do you give when someone is a new pet owner? Is there a standard thing that you just want to make sure every family knows when they walk into your office?
Yeah, I do. There's definitely a checklist that I go through. I want to make sure that it's interacting well with the family. A dog that is jumping on the little kids in the household isn't going to stay in that household very long. So we work on simple things like how to sit and how to lay down and teach the parents how to get their dog to do those things, or how to get the kitten not to scratch the kids. I've had many conversations with children on how to interact with their pets so that way then they can have a positive interaction with their pet. So there's definitely a checklist we go through. And
part of the checklist is training the pet, but I would imagine the other part of the checklist is training the parents.
Absolutely. A huge part of it is training the parents. It's a lot of training the parents. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Melville, who's joining us here in the studio. If you can hear, I'm not sure if our listeners can hear Melville breathing in the background.
I'll give the representation.
Okay. Okay, so that one was Eric, but
yeah.
Melville sounds just like that. Where does the name Melville come from, and how did he join your family?
So I first met Melville when he was with his puppy raiser. He was originally going to be a guide dog for the blind, and I just fell in love with him. It was love at first sight, truly. And so I told his puppy raiser, if something ever happens that Melville needs a home, please let me know. And most of the time, many puppy raisers have a line of people that want their dogs if they don't make it through the program. And his puppy raiser said, I don't have anybody that would take him right now, so I'll keep you off the top of the list. And it was about a year later that I got the phone call that he was being released from the program. And he was almost making it to being a guide dog, but he was being released, being career changed. As I tell school kids when I do school talks, he changed his major instead.
That's good, yeah.
It's what I typically will tell them. So he came to live with us, and he's been part of our family ever since.
Now, does the name Melville come from somewhere?
So somebody along the way made a contribution and asked to name him Melville. All of the dogs in his litter all have M names. That was the only prerequisite, is that it was an M name.
And Melville stuck.
And Melville stuck.
I think it's a great name for him.
We could have changed his name, but he knows it so well, and it's just who he is. It's part of his personality.
That's right.
Now, you talk about doing these presentations for kids. What do those look like?
So I've done several career day type presentations about what it is to be a veterinarian, but I also try to talk to the children about all of the other things. I can't be a veterinarian by myself. I need all of the people that I work with every day. I need our receptionists, and I need our technicians. I need the folks that work in the kennel and take care of our boarding dogs. I need all of those people to do my job. So even if a kid loves animals, but they're just not cut out to be a veterinarian, there are lots of other fields for them to go into. There are lots of other things that they can do where they can still love animals and care for animals and their owners, but yet do something else.
So I think a lot of us have some sort of concept for what a job that we're being trained for is going to be like, and then we actually get on the job, and it's completely different than we thought it would be. Were there any surprises that you came across when you started your work as a vet?
The biggest surprise had to be how much counseling I do. I really get to know my families. I get to know where they've been and what brought them into my exam room on that particular day. So they may be making a decision that is really hard at the same time that they are maybe making lots of other really hard decisions in their life. And this is the tip of the iceberg for them, or it's almost a breaking point for them. And having that experience of holding their hand and letting them just sit and cry. Sometimes that's what they need, is 4 walls to sit and cry in, and then discuss what is really going on with their pet and what can we do to help it and what can we do to make that day a better day for them.
I think that's such a great reminder for us, regardless as to what our vocational path is. Those interpersonal relationships with either colleagues or clients or pet parents or whatever it may be is such a vital and important part, not only of the job, but of our Christian witness and Christian ministry. And I love to hear that going into a field where you think, I'm working with animals and I love the animals, and that one of the largest parts of the job doesn't have really anything to do with animals.
Exactly. Yeah. It's definitely more than just caring for the animals. It's not all science and math. That's how I was trained, is that it's a lot of science and math. That's what I was judged on to get into vet school. But it's those interpersonal relationships that really make it a career and not a job.
And do you feel like, you mentioned primarily the training was in science and math.
Right.
Was there any sort of training in patient care, parent care, counseling, those sorts of things, or is that all on the job?
A lot of it's on
imagine.
the job.
Yeah.
It's on the job, yeah. And walking through my faith, being in church and getting other explanations for some things or other ways to address a situation, I think has really helped me. Sometimes when I have to make those really tough phone calls, I'll sit down and close my eyes and pray that just, dear God, please give me the right words to say to this family at this time.
So, Kit, we've got one question that we ask every member that comes on the podcast, and that question is this. At this point in your life, what is one thing that you wish someone would have told you?
I wish someone would have told me how much of a teacher, a mentor, a counselor, that this career really is, and how much I get to do that. I'm very blessed that I get to do it. I enjoy it, but I didn't know that that's what I was going to do for a large portion of my time in my veterinarian shoes.
Well, I know your patients and your patients' parents surely appreciate that, as many of us here appreciate your teaching and counseling spirit as well. We have enjoyed having you on the podcast today. Thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity to come in. And Melville's enjoyed it as well.
Yes, it's been great
We've
having
enjoyed
him.
Melville. Yep. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Listening to Dr. Mathes talk about the way that she practices veterinary medicine was pretty intriguing because I don't really think about it often as holistically as she described it. She's not only a doctor to the patients, to the pets themselves, but she's really a doctor to the parents and sees it all as one family unit. It's just really neat to see her approach, and it's obvious how much she loves animals.
We love animals here at the church as well. In fact, we've had a few unique opportunities and some great stories that revolve around animals, specifically in these cases around dogs. And one of our staff members actually spends a lot of time working with animals, volunteering for local pet stores. And so we're excited to continue our conversation today with our director of music, Mike Lightfoot. So Mike, can you tell us how you became such a lover of animals?
I guess I've always loved animals. Grew up in a house with pets. My mom and dad had pets. We had a dog when I was a little boy, but after that, mainly cats. And so I have an equal love for dogs and cats. I'm one of those quirky people. You have dog people and cat people. Mary and I throw our hands up. It's like, what's going on here? We love dogs and cats. Why can't you love both? So Mary and I, we adopted Oreo, our little kitty cat. And so we decided to volunteer at PetSmart. We do that weekly. We go in every Wednesday morning and clean the little kitty cat's cages and take care of them and fall in love with them. And we rejoice when the little ones get adopted, our little favorites. We always have favorites. And this last weekend, our two favorites that have been there for a long time, they were both adopted. So we were just rejoicing over that.
It's a miracle you haven't adopted more cats yourself. I have no willpower. My wife and I always joked, we adopted one dog. We have two dogs. We adopted one dog years ago and went to PetSmart one day to buy that dog a bone. And I always used to joke with Val, like, you can't be weak. Like, you're going to be the reason we get another dog. And we came home with no bone and another dog from PetSmart. And I was the impulse buyer. I was the impulse adopter. I had zero self-control.
It's so hard to say no to those sweet puppy dog faces. How did you get into that pet adoption thing?
We had been talking about getting a pet. We'd been married for a few years, and I think always held back because I know pets die. Mm-hmm. And it kills me. So I thought, I don't want to get into that commitment, fall in love with something, bring it into our house, and then have it die. That's odd, but that was my thinking all along. And one day I was out, I took pictures of 3 of the cats there and took them home, and she said, I love the black and white. So we got Oreo, and that was 10 years ago. We love her dearly, but to pay back a little bit, we decided we want to volunteer there. So they have volunteers. People that volunteer their time are the ones that take care of the cats at PetSmart, those adoption places. That's all volunteer work there.
That is so cool.
A lot of great people out there.
What a great name, Oreo.
Yeah.
For a black and white cat. I love that. Did you all come up with that name, or was that?
Yeah, on the way out to the car, I said,
beautiful.
that's Oreo.
That's great. And you just know sometimes. You just know.
do.
So we had a recent experience here at the church with a stray dog that found its way into our hearts here at the church. We ended up calling the dog Indy. Would you mind sharing Indy's story with our listeners?
Mary was here. Mary is the organist at the church, and she always rehearses on Saturdays. And coming out of a rehearsal on a Saturday in November, she called me at the house, and she said, there's a little dog running around the parking lot up here. So my heart was broken already, and I'm like, does it look lost? Don't let it get out in the traffic. And she said, well, it's not lost. But it's just going in circles around the church lot, and it won't come to me. I said, do we have any food in the refrigerator at the church? So she went and checked, and she found a piece of key lime pie. And she took that out and put it down, and the dog just ate it right up. So she said the dog was skin and bones, but you couldn't get her to come to you. So as time went on, we began to look forward to going to church in the mornings to see this little dog, and it was always going counterclockwise, and it was always going around the oval of our very large facility here, the church
Just
parking lot.
over and over.
Yeah, always going in a circle. And we knew that Indy was looking for its owners. You could tell. She wouldn't come to you. I would sit on the curb, and she would come by, and she would look at me and walk a wide berth around me and then keep going. And one day I was able to feed her out of my hand, but she wouldn't get close enough where I could grab her. I called the city a couple of times. They sent people out, tried to catch her physically. They set out the live cages, and I would check those every morning. They finally had to come and get the cages. Nothing would work. And people on the staff began to notice Indy, and we started emailing one another.
Yeah, right.
And in the day school, parents, I'd see them out in the parking lot, and I'd go over to visit with them. We're waiting on that little dog. And I named her Indy because she would always go in the oval around our church, counterclockwise, just like an Indy race car would. And so that's where her name came from.
Genius.
And that stuck. And so now she has a name. Now we're really falling in love with Indy.
How long was the process up to this point?
She was out there for over a month.
Wow.
So in December, the weather began to turn cold, and we were really getting concerned. So we started putting out shelter. And on a Wednesday evening before choir rehearsal, I went into the sanctuary. Mary was practicing organ in there, and I went in to tell her something. And she was sitting at the organ bench crying. And I said, "What's going on?" She said, "Indy's not going to make it if we don't save her." And so I said, "Then let's do something. We've tried everything. Let's call Stacy." So Stacy is a gal that rescues pets. Mainly she rescues cats. That's her forte, but she has these little cages. But Indy's a little dog, so I called Stacy, and she said, "I'll be out tomorrow, and I'll bring friends." So she came with 2 people. They put the cages out, and we put some barbecue in there to tempt her. And Indy was sitting out there, and she was scared to death, but she took off, and she started doing her oval. And I had to leave. I had to go to an Elton John concert that night. I had to go get ready and go, and left Stacy there. And then they ended up having to leave. So we're in the Elton John concert, getting toward the end of the concert, and Elton is singing one of our favorite songs. And at that point, the whole crowd stood up. And it's the first time that since the beginning of the concert, everybody had sort of settled in, but everybody was up. And we were listening to this great song. It's called Your Song.
Sure.
My gift is my song, and this one's for you. And I felt my phone buzz, so I grabbed my phone and looked down, and it just said, "We've got her." And then there were pictures of Indy in this cage, and I just immediately I just teared up. I was crying. The emotions of this concert, Elton singing this great song, and now we've got her. And I showed it to Mary, and she just started bawling. So we just threw our arms around each other, and we're swaying. And it was one of those high moments in life where after 4 to 6 weeks, I don't know how long Indy was out there going around our parking lot, but she was not going to make it. It was getting really chilly at night, and now we knew she was safe.
Well, and I remember you sharing with the staff and just the whole staff having this sense of relief because we had been following the story all along. You'd been giving us kind of email updates as you continued to monitor Indy's progress. And I remember you telling us when she would get closer to your hand, and she finally ate a little bit out of your hand. And so this was the grand finale of sorts. But then the story went on. So what happened after Indy was captured friendly?
So Stacy took her home and gave her a bath that night and put her down in her cage and went on to bed, and she could hear her crying. So Stacy got up and got some blankets and pillows and laid down and slept next to the cage, slept with Indy that night. That soothed her. And by the next night, Indy was clean and bathed and up in the bed and under the covers and totally at home.
Wow.
And Stacy fell in love. Stacy was going to just foster her for a couple of nights. A choir member had donated $1,000 to help the process, get her fostered and adopted and the whole thing. And it was never needed because Stacy fell in love with her and took her on. So
that is so cool.
She found a home.
And so I remember you brought Indy back to the church offices and kind of paraded her around showed with her new haircut and the new fresh look. So how soon after Stacy had brought her home that first night did we see her in the offices?
That's probably 2 weeks later. And the amazing thing is this dog that wouldn't come to anyone was just
totally transformed.
Yes, she was fine. She came to everybody, let you pet her. Before that, I think she just felt like, you're not my owner. I'm going to look for my owner until they come back. I know they're here. I know they're coming back to get me. So she wouldn't come to anyone. She was looking for a specific person.
Wow.
But as soon as she felt safe, she was fine.
And
I've never seen anything like that.
Wow. So we also had another great story recently in our church centered around dogs and centered around our music department. You seem to attract great dog stories. So this included a photo that we posted on social media of a dog wearing some choir attire.
Yeah.
Would you tell us about the dog that joined the choir?
Yeah. Linda Lipscomb came to me, and she joined the church a couple of months ago, and she has a service dog. She has multiple sclerosis. So her service dog is a golden lab, and she wanted to join the choir. And she said, can Albie join as well? And I said, absolutely. I said, we've never had a choir dog, but I would love that. And so Linda joined the choir, and Albie is now with us. And when Linda gets into the choir loft, Albie just lays down in the floor, just goes right to sleep.
now the picture that we posted is of Albie wearing some sort of a choir stole.
Mm-hmm.
Whose idea was that, and how did that come to fruition?
After our first rehearsal, I asked Linda if she would like for Albie. I'd been thinking, let's get a little choir robe made, and I thought, she doesn't need a robe. She's a little dog. So we gave Albie a stole. I said, let's put a stole. And she said, I would love that. So she was all for it.
And you just get those at like Petco or?
No. It was,
Where do you get a choir stole for a dog?
it's one of our choir stoles.
Oh, it really is?
Yeah, it's one of ours. Yeah, and of course, Albie wears the vest, so she puts the stole on Albie and then the vest over that. So she's got the little stole in front there.
That matches everybody else in the choir. That's so cool.
So we're tickled to have Albie in the choir now.
That's excellent. Well, Mike, we, of course, appreciate all of your musical contributions to the church, but also just have loved hearing about your and Mary's love for animals and appreciate the way that you care for the animals of our community and appreciate the conversation today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Share stories today about all of the different ways that we are affected by the animals in our lives, the ways that our pets become members of our families. I'm reminded of what a great representation of God's unconditional love and character these pets are in our lives. If you'd like to see pictures of Kit and her beloved Melville, as well as the amazing Indy that we heard stories about, please visit our website at fumcr.com/morethansunday.
It's evident throughout Scripture that God loves animals, as God loves all of God's creation. And so we leave you with a psalm, Psalm 36, verses 5 through 7, that reminds us of that love. Your steadfast love, O Lord, extends to the heavens, your faithfulness to the clouds. Your righteousness is like the mighty mountains, your judgments are like the great deep. You save humans and animals alike, O Lord. How precious is your steadfast love, O God.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of More Than Sunday. If you like the podcast, please feel free to share it, go online and leave a comment, or give us a rating so that others might hear about us. We've got a new episode coming out every Wednesday, so make sure you also subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss our next episode. If you want to find out more about First United Methodist Church Richardson, you can find us online at fumcr.com, as well as on Facebook and Instagram. Special thanks to Dr. Kit Mathes and Mike Lightfoot for joining us this week. And make sure you tune in next Wednesday when we have a conversation with the CEO of New Friends, New Life, Kim Robinson. Have a great week.